If you like this podcast or the previous ones, please consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Frankie'sPod. It just goes to help fund the software and the hosting. Right, just before we crack on with this episode, just a quick word about our sponsor, KS Civils and Groundworks Limited, based in Leeds. They have over 296 years of combined experience in civil engineering and groundworks. Led by Director Carl Smith, their team is known for honesty, reliability and commitment to the highest safety and quality standards. They're proudly ISO accredited and fully CHAS Elite accredited. No matter the size of your project, KS Civils and Groundworks delivers professional, trustworthy service you can rely on. To learn more, visit kscivilsandgroundworks.co.uk. Now let's dive back into this episode. Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Tonight we've got Darren Wright on with me. And Darren joined the Gunners in 1999. And as I've just found out, actually served in the regiment I used to be in, 47. He was an air defender. I was, when it was a proper regiment, when it was a field regiment. Functions. But we won't go into that. Well, we might. Hey, Darren, how are you doing?
How do you, mate? You all right?
Again, like I say to everybody, thanks for coming on and doing this. I know the normal 5 questions they asked that we've just been over. But also at the end of this, I want to talk about the veterans and logistics, because I've only come across that recently through your posts on TikTok and places like that. And I think that's brilliant. There's plenty of guys out there who need help, and that's helping them as well. Helping them get employment and everything like that. So if we could just start off with, give us a bit of background about yourselves. Where did you grow up? What was that like? And then why did you join the military?
Yeah, I grew up in Manchester. Grew up in a council estate. Mum and dad split when I was a kid. Brought up by my dad. Broken home stuff. I left school with no qualifications. I had 3 kids by the time I was 19. So I had no TV. So yeah, but I used to box as a kid. And then I joined the military. I was in the Army Cadets when I was as a teenager. So I was in the Fusiliers. Done that as a bit of a hobby. Then in my early 20s, I wanted to join the military to get away from Manchester, get away from, the council estate, get away from what goes on a council estate, all the wheeling and dealing. I just wanted to get away and get better life for my kids. I joined the Royal Artillery, and I got best recruit, and they was going to send me to 3rd RHA over in Germany. I decided against that. I was going to 7 Para. But when I was going through basic training, I come across one of the instructors with a maroon beret and the Royal Artillery cap badge. And I said to him, who are you then? What do you do? And he went, well, we're the air defence side. He said, and we're based down at Thorney Island. He said, it's the best posting in the British Army on British soil. He said, we've got our own beach. And I just thought to myself, that'd be beautiful for my kids. I decided to, because I got best recruit, I had the choice where I wanted to go. And I chose to go to 1 Battery down on Thorney Island.
I mean, like we spoke about it just before this. I mean, I spent a few years at Thorney before it changed to air defence. And you're right. To me, in the artillery in the UK, it was the best posting you could get. Like you said, it's got its own beach. The weather's glorious down there. It's got a sailing club with the stables there. It's just awesome. I absolutely loved being there. The town not that far away, Emsworth for a beer and all. Yeah, it was great. The lads loved it. When we found out we had to leave, go to Forth and go to 3RHA and places like that, we were good. We were absolutely good.
When I used to go running, I used to run off camp, and I used to run through Emsworth. I used to have the swans on the lakes, and I'd be running and I'd be running along the coastline. I used to think to myself, I come from Manchester, council estate. I'm down here in the south coast, in the hot weather, away from rainy Manchester. The kids live on the island. They've got a school. They're part of the riding club. They've got the sailing club, like you said before. You get involved in that. They got the airfield. There was just so much going on. And it was fantastic for the children. The families, and I think the wives used to like it a bit too much. The year old drinking in there, but as you do.
Yeah, I mean, I really have fond memories of that place. I mean, the gates they have at either side of the sluice gates where people come in and walk around. But they put them in when we were there. Right. And I always remember that we used to the video link was at the guard post on the main gate, and we used to people would come up and buzz the button to get in and walk around, and we'd make them sing songs and stuff like that before we'd open the open the gate. And, a lot of them would be like, what? But they'd do it. I mean, it was fucking mental. I loved it. Absolutely loved it down there. I mean, I was like unlucky that I lived in Gosport. We were in quarters of Gosport. It was unlucky that you weren't on the island all the time, but the luckiness was that you didn't get dick for duties on a weekend and stuff like that. You were a bit too far away. So what was it like actually serving with the regiment then?
It was good. I enjoyed my time there. As I arrived, I put myself down for P Company. So pretty much straight away, I was put on pre-para. That was hard. I'm not going to lie. I remember when I first started it, and I remember someone saying to me, to pass P Company, it's 80% mental, 20% physical. And I was like, bloody hell, blown at my ass already. I put myself forward to that. I enjoyed it. I had a good bunch there. It's like when you're the family, like they make you feel part of the family, don't they? And that's what they've done for me. And I'd say in the military, that's the first time I got that family feel that I never got grown up as a kid. Like my mates become my brothers, or you felt supported and you felt like part of a family. So I really enjoyed my time there. When I've done P Company, past P Company, I remember coming.
So can I just ask you a question about P Company? So you've gone up to do that with 7RHA and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Was there any animosity between RHA and RA? Or everyone was on the level playing field?
No, not at all, because we're just airborne gunners, aren't we? So right. P-Troop was just part of another battery, part of another battery up in Part 7 para RHA. And then what they've done is they moved the air defence side to 4-7 so they can be part of a 4-7. That's when they formed 2-1 battery. They joined 2-1 battery. We're all airborne gunners, Whether you're on the guns or your air defence, you still as long as you earn your wings and your brothers, aren't you? You jump out and you do your jumps together, you're working together. Just airborne gunners at the end of the day. So we stick together.
So how did you find doing P Company?
Hard. I'm not gonna lie. I found it hard. And I think anyone who does it or does commando course, they find it hard. And I just remember full of injuries. My knees. I was taking my knees up. I had no skin on the bottom of my feet. I was putting zinc oxide tape, and when you walk out in the morning, you're limping out, and then you sort of get going, and before you know it, you're tabbing. But I found it all hard, but I just had it in my head. I never wanted to do it more than once. I just wanted to do it the first time. And each time I'd done it, I went, if I can go out today and I'm coming back and I'm starting again in the morning, I'm a happy guy. And I just didn't look too far into it. I just put my head down, knew that I was going to come open, I was going to come back, and I just got on with it. And I think you just got to have that in your mindset, I admit it's one of the hardest things that I've done, but I'm glad that I've done it, and I'm glad that I came part of Airborne Brotherhood. I remember seeing all the paras on TV a couple of years ago, and they're showing test week and the Trinasium, log race, and I was looking at it and I was like, bloody hell, I actually done that. Do you know what I mean? I'd like to do it now.
What the fuck did I do that for? Yeah.
No, when you're young, you don't realise, do you? You don't realise, just get on with it.
So what was it like going for your first jumps then?
So we did that up at Brize Norton, number 1 parachute school. So I'd done that up at Brize Norton, and I'd done my first jump over Western under Green. So you go to Brize Norton, the food's amazing there compared to the Army Cookhouse. Yeah. I remember going in for breakfast, and they had kippers, and the orange juice was fresh orange. You could taste the bits in it. As where what you get in the Army Cookhouse was orange cordial. So. But yeah, they just they do the ground training first. Then you got to get your 9 jumps in. 9 jumps and 1 night jump. So once you're at that stage and you pass P Company, the jumps is the easy part. You just want to get them done to get your wings up and get them.
Jumping out of a plane just does not do it for me, I must admit. I've spoken to quite a few guys who were in 7, and a couple of guys who were in 3 para and 2 para on the podcast. And they described their first jumps and that, and it was they were all honest. We're like, fucking hell, what are we doing this for? We're bricking it. But it was that going out, it was all noise, and then all of a sudden it was really quiet.
Well, I loved it. I remember, obviously when you do your first jump, and I remember jumping out of Hercules, and you sort of go under, the tail, and you can actually see it going underneath the tail, and then you see your parachute starting to open. But the smell of the aviation when you're jumping out, you jump into the slipstream, and you're going underneath. And then you're watching your parachute, you actually watch it open, and the way it opens up, and you see that it's open, and then next thing, you're looking down. But it's funny when you go you do your first jump without any kit. But it's funny when you go on So like when you're jumping mid kit and you got to release your bergen. So obviously you got to release your bergen and it's on a 15-foot rope. But when you're actually doing it and you land and then you're watching the other lads coming out, they're jumping out. But you can see them panicking, trying to get drop the bergen. But it's it's good. I enjoyed it. When I got my wings up, like you just like kissing them, and that's what it's like being in the military at that time. Proud of what you achieved, and proud that I know like I had my wings up.
I mean, from what I know of the paras, like para reg, they've got quite a lot of how can I put this delicately? I wouldn't say bullies, but there's this definite hierarchy. Like the senior Tom has got more power than fucking anybody type of thing. And I don't think that happens in the artillery as much. I mean, it definitely didn't in the in the non-airborne artillery. It wasn't so much that there wasn't the senior gunners and stuff like that as compared to what how the paras would. You've got to ask the senior Tom if you can go and get your tattoo, or you can go out and wear your fucking desert wellies and stuff like that. Did you find any of that within just within the airborne and the artillery?
No, obviously up at 7. In the canteen, in the cookhouse, you just have different tables, and you couldn't sit at a certain table until you got your wings up. Once you got your wings up, you're part of Brotherhood and you could sit on the table. But no, I didn't really. As long as once I proved myself and I got my wings up, you're part of that Brotherhood, you're part of the family. It was all right, and they stick together. They do stick together. Do you know what I mean? And even the paras, they stick together. It's like any other unit and regiment.
Any unit, exactly.
They stick together.
The only place I ever seen that not happen was at 3-4 battery.
Oh, okay.
When I got sent to 3-4 battery for 2 years on an ERE, they put me in C troop with the OPs, and I'm like, I'm not a fucking OP. I was this size when I was in the army, for fuck's sake. And I got put on a crew which had a lad from 148, 2 lads from 7, and a lad from 29. I can't remember what battery he was in. And I just rocked up and just thought, what the fuck have we done here? Somebody's made a big mistake. But everyone was fine. You had everyone from all different units within the artillery, and everyone just got on and worked together really, really well. And as you're probably aware that everyone to send out to 3-4 battery is probably the people that don't want it in the regiment, so you send them there to get rid of them. Yeah. So it was full of waifs and strays and dropouts and that, and it was fucking great. I loved 3-4 battery.
Yeah.
So getting back to 4-7 after you'd done you got your wings and everything, what was next for you in the regiment? How did it progress through there?
Went over to Canada. So when I done an exercise in Canada, so that was all right, out on the prairie. First time I ever had a Subway sandwich was in Calgary. I remember going into that Cowboys, where all the women walk around with the cleavage. Pissed up experience of that. But yeah, Canada was all right as well.
I mean, a med man, I think it's a rite of passage for anyone who's in the army. Everyone who's ever served should have gone through Canada at least once, even if it's just for the R&R afterwards. I mean, the exercise itself is amazing. Absolutely the only place you'll get to do certain things outside the theatre of war. The amount of rounds that you get to fire there, and I mean, again, with air defence and the artillery and stuff like that, I know nothing about air defence. It was like a separate entity completely. I suppose it was like that with the MLRS as well, because they were very separate as well. And us in the field artillery on the guns and that, knew nothing about what anybody else does, and we're all guilty of that. And you're probably the same, that you concentrated on your discipline of air defence, never involved with anything in the guns, or even wanted to know about them or anything like that. How did you think about stuff like that?
Well, I done my carder course with 7, and 7 we went over to Kenya. So we'd done we'd had to do we'd done an exercise. I think it was Gibraltar, I can't remember, but we'd done an exercise, and but we was also doing part of our carder course as well.
Yeah.
So we took part in the exercise, and I got put on the guns. And loading, passing the ammunition, and I loved it, right? And I was like, why didn't I come to 7? Why did I have to see that guy, going through basic training when I could have come here? I could have been on a light gun, because what I liked about the light gun, and which was different to the air defence, is that they worked as a team. There was a lot of shouting, a lot of going on, a lot of getting. All right, my head was ringing when I used to come off. I was like, boom, it used to ring, and I was like, wow. But I enjoyed it, you know what I mean? And it's that, togetherness, of getting a fire machine down and getting a gun loaded, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just passing the ammunition, you know what I mean? Because I wasn't gun trained, but they had me on there, and I got to fire it a few times. Do you know what I mean? But it was good, and Enjoyed it.
No, I like working on Lego. I started off on Abbott's. That's showing how old I am. Then we moved to FH70, which was a fucking beast. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Everyone I know who's worked on it hates it, and I'm like, nah, it's just a big beast. It's great.
Yeah.
You'd lose fingers and arms on it, but that's what it is. And then later on, I left the guns. I went into the signal side of things on the command post and stuff like that. And I ended up doing a desk job there, basically, for the last 6 years.
Yep.
Working for one of the RC, working with the RC Open 39, which was the end of my career as such. So what was next for you after the Kenya Carter course? Did you get promotion and everything?
Yeah, done that. Yeah, got promoted pretty much straight away. Went to Kenya, come back from Kenya within a few weeks or within a week or so. Picked up, got my Lance Jack, and I was doing all right. I was boxing for the regiment. I was doing all right. So everything was going fine.
Did you get to do any operational tours while you were with them?
I done Afghan, so I went over to Afghan.
Right, how did you find that? From
No,
the beginning of the training. I mean, I didn't do Afghan. I was lucky enough not to go there. I've done Iraq and places like that, but I never got to do Afghan, so I've no experience of it. I spoke to plenty of people who've been there, and everyone's got a different story about the place, and it affects people differently.
I think.
What's your take on it?
So obviously you train to do your job, aren't you? Like you want to go to work, you want to go to these places, and I remember I was on exercise, getting ready to go on exercise, and you get inspection before you actually go out. So we get inspection, and one of my mates was coming across from the guard room, and he said to me, there's a plane just gone into the Twin Tower. So I ran over to the guard room. That's where you got to tell it, because we're waiting to go on exercise. And I ran over to the guard room. And I remember watching the second plane go into the Twin Tower. And I remember the provost sergeant turning around and go, things are not going to be the same after this. And he's telling the truth. And as a bonus at the time, because the exercise got cancelled.
I'm laughing. It's like you shouldn't laugh at it, but exercise got cancelled.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. So exercise got cancelled, and before you know it, the British troops were in Afghanistan, and I was one of them that went at the time.
So you went really early then?
Yeah, went really early, and then come back, and then I ended up getting out, signing off. Didn't want to be in the military anymore.
Can I ask why that was?
I started, I come back from Afghan, right. And then I went over to Cyprus for Juventus. So when I come back from Afghan, it wasn't long. A month or two, probably a couple of months, found myself in Cyprus doing Juventus. And then when I was over there, I started struggling. I started no drinking. Started struggling with mental health. And then I come back from a 6 months tour of Cyprus, and I was seeking help for my mental health. I was becoming like a distant father to my kids, and I was drinking a lot. I wasn't taking part in military boxing, didn't want to engage. Ended up in the Army Mental Hospital. So I ended up as an outpatient at Gosport. And then I ended up in Catterick. They got referred to Catterick as an inpatient, and I spent about 3 weeks up there and actually got discharged.
That's fucking quick, isn't it?
Yeah, it was over about 4 or 5 months, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, but I mean,
and then, I got a discharge, and he said to me, "If you need any help or need any support, go to your GP." But when I come out, my life was on a downward spiral. I was drinking, I was taking drugs. I didn't want to be here. My relationship fell apart. I lost my marriage. I wasn't a father to my kids. I was hanging around the wrong crowd, and I was drinking at night just to get through the night. I used to wake up in the morning just thinking the night's got happy to get through the night, but I was in such a bad way, mate. I was a shadow before myself, and that went on for 2 years. Like I said, I was involved in the wrong crowd, and I ended up getting in trouble, receiving a custodial sentence, and I got involved in collecting money, for the criminals in Manchester. One thing that once you've been in the military, everyone thinks you're even at Middleton, know when you return, and one thing that you do once you've been in the military, you don't take any crap once you go back. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I got involved in the wrong crowd, and I end up, getting a custodial sentence.
So, I mean, do you resent the military that they didn't give you the help that you required, or do you?
No, I do. Yeah.
It sounds like they just washed their hands here.
They did.
Which they did to a lot of people.
They did. So I do resent them in that way, because when I was in prison, I thought to myself, I wouldn't be here if I didn't join the military. I didn't get the correct support that I needed. I just got discharged and said, well, if you need any further support, go and see your GP. I did go and see my GP. I used to go and see my GP. And the GP just said, you need to stop drinking, your liver's going to collapse. I needed help and I needed support. And it was only when I went to prison that I got the support that I needed.
Really?
I regret the crime that I'd done, you know. But if I didn't go to prison, I won't be here talking to you now. And I always say that prison saved my life. So combat stress got involved, man. I got no assessed, got no psychiatrist, and then I found out, after being assessed, that I wasn't mental. I got diagnosed correctly, and I started getting treatment that I needed. That actually put me on the road to recovery. So when I come out of prison, my head was straight. I wanted to live again. I wanted to be a father to my children, and I wanted to rebuild my life, and I wanted to try and make up my children for the years that I'd lost. So that's what I've done.
So you said, because you started getting help in prison, how did that come about? Did somebody identify that you needed help, or did you ask for it?
No, so I asked for it. My solicitor wanted me to get me assessed when I was on remand, So the solicitor pushed for it, to get me assessed. She said, you need to be assessed mentally. So she got me assessed by a couple of psychiatrists, psychologists. They diagnosed me with PTSD. And then obviously I realised that I wasn't mental because I thought I used to think I was mental. And then it put me I started receiving treatment. But stress got involved with me. They used to come and support me. The prison was fantastic with me, to tell you the truth. And I'd done my sentence. But when I left, when I was coming out of prison, like I said, my head was right. Because...
It's amazed me because I've interviewed quite a few people who've done time. And the help and support they've got while they've been serving the sentence, for stuff that's affected them because of their military service and everything. It's amazed me that you get better support inside than you do on the outside. Do you know what I mean?
Well, the thing is, I look at it like this. When you're a soldier, if you can't do your job, you're no good. It's like a footballer. If you can't play football, you're no good to the team. You want to get really quicker than they can and replace you with another fit footballer. It's life, isn't it? But I think there should be more support there. Obviously, you're putting yourself forward for it, and I do believe I might not have gone to prison. I would have got the right support, I
mean, I don't want to go the old adage of, back in the day, we didn't know what mental health was and stuff like that. And I mean, we were pretty bad at it. Even in, I mean, when I joined, last thing on your mind was anything like that. Looking back, I've seen guys who now we knew, or you'd look back and go, right, he was suffering. He had PTSD or he had this or but he needed help. But people would just shy away from him and just leave him in their own fucking place.
Off his head.
Yeah, he's a fucking head case. Stay away from him. But there was a lot of people like that. And that carried on for a long, long time. And even, I got out in 2012 and it was still a bit like that as well. So I'd see people who got diagnosed with this, that, or the other, or they were told.
Well, it's done better. It's got better. It's got a lot better now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's more that they can do. But I just look at it like this. It is what it is. I'm just grateful that I'm alive. Do you know what I mean? I'm grateful that I'm alive because I've got I've got a purpose, and I was very close not to being here. Do you know what I mean? And I'm just glad that I've got my head straight. Because there's a lot of lads and girls that are not here today. Do you know what I mean? So I class myself fortunate of being here. I live every day as it comes.
So how long were you inside for, if you don't mind me asking?
6 years.
So that's a big chunk of your life, isn't it?
Yeah, big chunk of my life. I've done 6 years. I used to do the year by what was on TV. So I used to love watching The X Factor. And that used to start around end of August, September.
Yeah.
When that finishes in January, February, the Formula One used to start. I used to love watching Wimbledon, the female Wimbledon. And I used to love watching obviously the football. I'm a Manchester City fan. I used to watch all them TV programmes. I used to be locked up 23 hours a day sometimes. I used to watch EastEnders, Coronation Street, Emmerdale. I used to watch them all. Just got nothing else to do. Just being a cell.
That sounds like a fucking sentence in itself, being forced to watch all that. I mean, so when you went inside, do the veterans all kind of congregate to each other?
But yeah, the thing is, doing a prison sentence is like being in the military. Yeah. No, I always say this. No, in the military you're a number. In prison you're a number. You're given a number. There's a lot of military in prison. Yeah. A lot. I say over 10%. A lot of them from most of them. Well, they all of them from backgrounds like myself. A lot of infantry lads. I come across one Rupert who was a lieutenant colonel. I can't remember, but I used to work in the kitchen with him, and he's a proper posh guy. And I used to look at him and go, I used to call him sir. I showed him respect even though he wasn't in the military, still showed him that respect. And I used to work with him in the kitchens. I used to go, what are you in for, sir? Like that. and he was in for tax evasion. I think about 10 million quid, right?
Fucking hell.
And he got a big sentence. He was doing this he was doing about 6 years. And but he used to say to me, and he used to talk like that.
Yeah.
And he used to go, but he said, I've still got that 10 million quid. He said, and I've got it tucked away. Do you know like that? He said, he didn't get anything out of me. He says, and once my sentence is finished, he said, I'm off. And then when I look about the 10 million quid for 6 years, I probably thought, yeah, it's probably worth it, that. I come out with nothing. He come out with 10 million.
So, I mean, what were the screws like with you? I mean, we're not supposed to call them screws.
Yeah, prison office screws. Do you know what? Once they know that you've been in the military, because there used to be a lot of military that were prison officers, he was all right with you. They looked after you. You know, get your jobs on the wing. So when I first got locked up, and one of the screws and all that knew was like ex-army. He was ex-army himself, and he went, right, we'll get you a job. So they looked after us. You know, yeah. It's like anything, though, isn't it? You know, as long as you're not a dickhead, you know, yeah. You keep your head down, which I did in prison. Kept my head down. Just done my sentence, and just got on with it. It was a long time, and it was hard. You know, I'm not going to lie, it was hard. You know, being away from my family, but I needed it. You know, I've come out and rebuilt my life.
So when you were due to be released, does the prison service help you with that, or is it just like, there you go, off you go, these you bugger off?
So I went to an open prison in the last 18 months.
Okay.
And I had my HGV license. So an open prison just like being in a military camp. Do you know what I mean? There was no fence there, you know, but it's like being confined to camp. Right. You know, you can't go out. But I had a job during the day driving a truck. I used to work on a landfill site. So I used to drive a truck up and about the landfill, you know, picking the skips up, taking them up. It got me out during the day, working there. So yeah, it was. Did
you get paid for that?
No. But it got me access to a mobile phone to phone home, so I didn't, and it got me out my cell, and it got me busy, you know. So
and they were getting cheap labour.
Yeah, cheap labour. But the thing is, it was part of my sentence. It didn't bother me. I was just happy to be out working. I knew it was that next step, that closer step to being home. And when I got released, I had my HGV license from when I got it in Leconfield. I used that to get a job straight away. My probation officer said to me at the time, "You won't get a job." I went, "Well," and within that, for 48 hours, I was offered a job for leaving prison.
That's quick, mate. That's good. That's awesome, that, really. Yeah. I mean, I must admit, being an HGV driver is not something that's ever appealed to me. But I can see one of my mates who's going through a bad time at the moment. He spoke to you the other week, actually. He's wanting to do it. And he's looking forward to, let's say, that way of life. The open road, being on his own.
Well, my mate,
stuff like that.
My mate, and I advise this to all. So I talk to all service leavers and all veterans, and you know yourself, when you get to a certain level in the military, you come out of Sergeant Major, W01, you want to go into management jobs, and you want this because your aspirations you've been to a certain level. I mean, my friend finished as a W01, one of my best mates, come out, went and got a management job, and he hated it. 2 years of depression it caused him. And I said to him, I advised him to get his HGV license before he got out. And I said to him, get behind the wheel. It took him 2 years to listen to me. He's actually now in the best position he's ever been in his life. He works a 4-on 4-off shift. He does 3 nights out. He's on something like 48 grand a year, plus his full pension. And he's never been happier. When he went, Daz, I said, I wish I would have listened to you. And the thing is with driving, I know people go, I can't do that. There's all different types of driving jobs. If people can go and drive a bin truck. People can go, he does 4-on 4-off. He does 3 nights out, 4 days at home. Suits him and his missus, because when he was working at home, when he left the military and he wasn't going away, they started getting on each other's tits. At least now, which happens? And it happens a lot in the military.
It happens a lot, yeah.
But he said he does his 3 nights out, 4-on, so 3 nights out. He's back for 4 days. She's waiting for him when he gets back. Give him that break, that head space. And by the time he's done his 4th day of rest, she's looking forward to seeing packing his bag and going for 4 days. So it works for them, and he's never been happier. But after a veteran, one of the veterans who used to be in 2-1 battery, he reached out to me, trained him up. I got my job as a fuel tanker driver. He's now given that up, and he's now living in Canada. So he's used his license to be in Canada. But going back to HGV driving, there's that many different types of roles. You can get a job at Manchester Airport or any airport up and down the country where you don't even leave the airport. You can go and get drive a bin truck, but not for your local council. You won't even leave that borough where you live unless you take it to the tip. But these jobs where if people said to me, Daz, I don't get on the missus, I'm going to go sleeping in my truck. I'll go, I'll get you that job. I've just got 18 veterans on with on the Formula 1 circuit this year. they're going to go traveling the world. You know what I mean? So, like from China, America,
Yeah.
Formula One circuits. But is that many different types of driving job? And I've done the majority of them. I've done everything from driving a skip truck, ended up becoming a fuel tanker driver, driving for to the petrol supermarkets. I was on 52 grand a year basic, 4 on 4 off. But is that many different types of driving jobs? You know, I always say, don't try it, don't knock it till you've tried it.
Got it, yeah.
And you probably find someone that might suit you. And the good thing about driving a truck is you don't think about it till you go to work. And then when you finish work, you forget about it because you've got no reports to do. No, you got nothing. No, you got no worry. When I was a fuel tanker driver, I was on the same wage as a head teacher, but I didn't have the bullshit of Ofsted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was on 52 grand a year. Do you know what I mean?
So what led you into setting up the Veterans into Logistics then?
Right, so I come out of prison and I used my HCV license to get a job. And I got some good jobs and I wanted to be a fuel tanker driver, so I worked my way up to becoming a fuel tanker driver. And like I said, I was on good money. And then in 2018, I get a phone call out of the blue. And it's one of them phone calls when they say, have you heard about such a body? So it was one of my military mates saying, have you heard about Jamie Doyle? And you know what's going to come next? So when he's been found dead this morning. So I'm out. And I'd only spoke to Jamie about a week or two before. He was a big Liverpool fan. I was a big City. I think City just beat Liverpool. I can't remember the result, but as I come out the Etihad, it was like talking to each other. And so I went to the funeral. He had a massive, amazing funeral. He came from a big Scouts family. The regiment, all the lads were there. All my old mates were there. And it was when I was at that funeral, it hurt me a lot more than what I thought it would. And then I walked away from that funeral, like I said, feeling hurt. And it's when I was working on my own as a truck driver, I was thinking, and what happened to me is like, you ever bought a car and no one's got that type of car?
Yeah.
And then as soon as you buy one, you start seeing them
everywhere.
Well, that's what happened with me. I started on social media with veterans. I started seeing more veterans taking their own life all the time. And then I started thinking, because I spent all the time on my own working, because I used to work early hours, I used to start at 2 in the morning. And it was when I was on my own doing my deliveries. And then I started looking at, the homeless veterans on the street. When I used to walk past and you see them there, the cardboard. And then I started thinking about, the veterans in prison. And I just started thinking, you know what? I've been to rock bottom myself. I've been there. I've tried ending it. I want to do something. And I just thought to myself, I actually used my HCV license. That rebuilt my life. So I'd never done a driver training school before, but I knew what to do something. And it took me 2 years. And I kept on thinking about veterans into logistics, HCV driver training. That's what I need to do. Because there's a lot of service leavers that leave without a trade, right?
Yeah.
And you actually find out the ones that leave of trade don't tend to struggle to get employment. So your helicopter technicians, your officers, it tends to be the less academic individuals who tend to struggle. Do you know what I mean? And the ones without a trade. So I thought, I want to do something. So I bought a truck in 2020 and I bought it from some kid who worked for a company called Seven Leasing. It used to be £7 himself when I reached out to him. It should have been $7,000, but he gave me $5,000. You know what I mean? I bought my first truck and I named it after Jamie Doyle, and I just got going from there. And I was reaching, getting veterans who were struggling, who were on their ass. I took one of my first one was in some veteran accommodation. The puppy factory introduced him to me. I trained him up. I rebuilt his life. Got to give him the tools to rebuild his life. He was at a suicidal point himself because he couldn't see no out. He didn't have a job. He didn't have a purpose. He lost his marriage. He was staying in one of these, what I call, some of them, not all of them, he's staying in some of these accommodation, which sometimes I call them entrapment centres. But he was in there. We trained him up. We got him a job. He went tramping. He rebuilt his life. And he rebuilt his life with his kids, and he's just given that purpose. Just give him that purpose again, where he can earn his own money. And when you think of HGV driving, my daughter's a school teacher. So she done 3 years English degree. She'd done a year PGCE. So that's 4 years at university. Plus 2 years, as A-levels. 6 years further education. When she first started, she had to go for interviews. And she started on 26 grand a year, right? So that's 6 years further education. Plus she left with her debt. I train people in 6 weeks and get my jobs on 30, 40 grand a year. Money changes your life. Money empowers you to to go and pay your rent. It empowers you so you can go and provide for your family. It empowers you so you can live again. Because when you haven't got money, when you come out of forces, right, one thing that you do, if you come out of forces, you haven't got a job, right? You lose that someone who you was from when you used to come home and used to be somebody, where people used to walk in a pub and people used to buy you drinks because you're in the military. So you lose the identity. If you don't get a job, or you lose that value and purpose as a person, of not being able to provide. You know what I mean? And then you put all that, and then you've lost the military itself, so you feel like you've lost your family. You know what I mean? That's when you start, like thinking of the good times you done in the military. You forget about the amount of times that you wanted to sign off. Do you know what I mean? But it's certain things, remember, and then you start suffering from depression. Do you know what I mean? You can't provide. But I always say this, man. When COVID kicked in, a lot of people took their own lives who wasn't military, but they took their own lives because they lost their jobs, right? And they couldn't, they lost they were stressing over, they had anxiety, they don't know how to pay a bill, we've gone through uncertain times, and the government was pushing out mental health. You know what I mean? And I say to myself, how many veterans maybe still be alive today if they made that perfect transition, right? One thing that I did find out when I set up veterans into logistics, which is wrong, and I don't like the MOD for this, I'm not going to call the army, right, was you could not use your LCAS funding to become a HGV driver, right? But you could use it to become a transport manager, right? So I lobbied with Johnny Mercer, who was the veterans minister at the time, and I sent him an email, and I said, why can you use your LCAS funding to become a transport manager, but you can't use it to become a HGV driver when a HGV driver earns money than a transport manager? It's down to your learning level credits. And then what I thought to myself, you're actually discriminating the less academic individuals who leave the armed forces. Do you know what I mean? And the way I look at it is, if you've got your LCAS credits, right, and they're yours and you've earned them and you've given for you to to support you into employment, if you want to go and get a job in a nail bar and learn to paint nails, as long as that gives you a job, go and use them for that, they're yours. Do you know what I mean? My friend Jamie took his to his grave with him. And sometimes I think, how many homeless veterans are on the street who've got LCAS credits and they can't access them because they're not academic enough and they don't want to do the learning credit at level 3?
I agree. I know quite a few lads who've not used them.
Because the barriers are put in place. So when you think of it like this, right, there's barriers put in place against military, right, to prevent them from using it. And then some might end up on the street, some might end up in prison, or even worse, some of them might end up taking their own life. But if they could have been able to use them to upskill, like become a crane operator or become a plant operator, they could have got a job. But instead, there's barriers put in place where they need to be academic. I was an academic, I'm a skilled worker. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of infantry lads who were skilled workers. Look how many people join the military, because they had a good upbringing. Some people find that academic when they're in there, but some people go, no, paperwork and all that, they shy away from it. So they shy away from using the LCAS. And I believe it's put up in place, to me, they're discriminating. And they're still doing it now. I got it changed for HGV driver training with Johnny Mercer 3 years ago. I lobbied and I got it. So I got in touch with Johnny Mercer and I said, why are you discriminating less academic service leavers and veterans? So we got in touch with him with a Teams call. 3 weeks later, I got an email from Whitehall, MOD main building, some SO1. I didn't even know what an SO1 was, right? I'll be truthful, I didn't, some SO1. We had a Teams call, proper posh woman. And she said to him, do you think the policy should be changed that you can use it for HGV driver training? I went, yeah, I do. I said, if you want to, it's your funding. I said, and that's going to support you getting into a job. You should be able to use it. 3 weeks later, she emailed me, should be changing the policy. Now, I don't have I played my part, but I'll point out that we had a driver shortage as well. That probably helped out as well. Before she went, I said, how did you get my email address? And she went, Johnny Mercer. So lobbying with Johnny Mercer was supporting getting that changed. So service leavers now, they don't realise, but I played a part in getting that changed. But some woman got in touch with me the other week and she heard about that I'd done this. And she said, I need your support for the construction industry. So she went, they're not allowing service leavers and veterans to use the LCAS learning credits to do like crane operators, plant operators, earth movers. These earth movers are on 20 quid an hour, £26 an hour. Why can't you use it for that? They're putting barriers up, but when you think of it, they're putting barriers up, people using it. Say that veteran comes out, ends up on the street or ends up in support accommodation. They're costing the taxpayer big money. They go to prison. They're costing the taxpayer 40, 50 grand a year. And me personally, I think it's discrimination against the less academic service leavers, and it needs to change.
I mean, now you put it that way, I totally agree with you.
And I don't think this is the best country for ex-military. I'll be truthful. I think it is for the higher upper class, but I don't for the lower class. And that's my opinion.
It's a valid one, and I totally agree with you. We always think of over in America, the veterans get treated better and everything like that, thank you for your service and people standing up for them and stuff like that. And in this country, we get treated like third-class citizens. And we always have,
Yeah, we do.
We always have had. Even when we were serving, specifically, we were third-class citizens. I mean, even while I was serving, how hard was it to get a loan? How hard was it to get finance for a car just because you were in the military? And you come out as a veteran, like you say, especially if you've got no trade. I mean, I left with no trade. I was quite lucky that I'm a bit of a geek and I like IT, that I got into an IT job.
But you're academic. Not everyone's academic. Some people join the
I
military but
wouldn't.
not academic. But you are. You've got skill, but some people aren't. But when you think the British public are all more like pro-veteran, support veterans, love the military. That's why you get a lot of like people collecting money on like behalf of like charities. No, I think it's wrong the way they get treated, and I think more should be done. And I just think of even as a taxpayer to save taxpayer money, if you can support a service leaver, they should be able to use them skills or get them trained up and get them into jobs. Who in the right mind wants to join the military these days when you see so many homeless veterans on the street? Who wants to join the military route when they don't get looked after when they leave? If they took care of the back end of service leavers getting out and support them into employment, support them into training, more people might want to join. Might not have such a bad reputation of joining the military, but he wants to join now when you look at that.
I interviewed two guys from America a couple of months back, and I asked them why they joined. Literally, they joined about the same time as you. Literally, they joined for the war on terror. That's why they joined. One of them did the college thing where when they joined, if they do a certain amount of time, when they leave, they get put through college. And I thought that was for everybody, but as it turns out, it's not. There's only if you join them. Like, one of the lads was a Marine, and he didn't get that, and everything's not rosy over there, like with the VA and stuff like that. It's just we all think it's rose-tinted classes over there, and it's great for everyone. It isn't. It depends on what state you're in places like that, but it's not as rosy as we think. And I don't know what other countries are like France, Germany, with their veterans.
I don't care about it, wasn't it?
You don't really get any news from there about anything like that. I suppose maybe it's just different culture, different language, or whatever.
Do you know what sport? Do you know what sport accommodation is?
Yeah.
Do you know what it is? Yeah. Do you know of any?
Yeah. Sorry.
Do you know of any supported accommodation?
No, I don't.
Right. So I'm going to tell you a little story. This was a few years ago. So a veteran reaches out. He's in this supported accommodation. I didn't even know what they were, right? Because obviously I started veterans into logistics. I've had my eyes open so much of what really goes on, right?
Yeah.
I come into this, what I'm doing it, naive. Wanted to make a difference, but naive as well. So I train this veteran up who's in this supported accommodation. 6-8 weeks, get him trained up. I get my job offer. He's been in this supported accommodation for 4 years. So I trained him up, get my job offer in Trafford Park, 38 grand a year, offered to him. He phones me up and he goes, Daz, I said, I can't take the job. I said, what do you mean you can't take the job? I've just gone to this great effort of training you up and sorting you a job out. He went, Daz, he said, if I take this job, the accommodation that I'm in now, I've got to pay him £400 a week. How much? He went, £400 a week. So this house was full of veterans. So I'm like, okay. So I went down, spoke to the person in charge there. He was ex-military. And he went, yeah. He has to pay £400 a week if he gets a job because that's what we draw down from the government. So I went, right, okay.
So that's a business.
That's a business. That are making money on veterans, right? And there's loads of them all over, right? All over the country. I call them entrapment centres. There's some good ones, but there's some bad ones where they just want to make money on the back of veterans and they blow the veteran card out all the time, right? But they're just making money on the back of the less academic veterans, the ones who come out and struggle, can't use the funding to get training or they can't get a retrade. Some of them end up in there, right? And so I wrote a letter to me, local mayor, and I copied everyone involved. I'm going to forward it to you, actually, when you send the email address. So I emailed my local mayor, right? Remember when Tony Blair called it education? I called it entrapment. Because what he wanted to do was take £400 a week off this guy. And I just said to him, he's been in here for 4 years. He cost a taxpayer 80 grand just in rent alone. I said, and he's been asked to pay £400 a week if he goes and takes this job. And when it's hard enough, just in a normal relationship, they say it's the most stressful time that women and their husband and wife argue when they move house. I said, but you're asking this guy, this veteran, to move out, find his own place, right? Take a job, find transport. I said, surely there should be some transition period of at least give him 12 weeks to start a job. Take £100 a week off him. You know what I mean? I don't expect it for free, but take £100 and give that guy support. So you want to be supporting him into employment, not putting barriers up. And the problem in this country is too many barriers where people make money. Do you know what I mean? And there's too many people making money on the back end, the lower cost, because that's what it is. It's down to the lower cost. You know what I mean? And I've been around to a lot of these entrapment centres, veteran entrapment centres. There's some good ones, but there's a lot of crap ones. So this guy didn't end up taking a job, and I think he's still there. So that was 3 years ago. It probably cost like the taxpayer under 40 grand, under 30 grand in rent. But there's a few that have helped escape from there. So I've trained them up, and what I say to them, well, listen, you're going to have to believe in me. You're going to have to leave that place, right? I will get you in a truck, sleeping in your truck Monday to Friday. I said, and use a B&B at the weekend. You're earning £1,000 a week. Pay for yourself. So they've done it. A few have done it. And I've got them jobs where they're sleeping in a truck Monday to Friday. They've never done tramping before. They've never done sleeping in a truck before. But I say, treat it like basic training, right? I said, go and do 12, 16 weeks of it, right? Know in your head, right? You're doing that in your head. I said, but you don't have to stay there. You're not paying crazy £400 a week. Do you know what I mean? I said, you stay in a B&B. Save what you grand a week before you know it, you're getting your own gaff. I've had a veteran turn up with new car, like not newish cars, rebuild their lives, get their own gaffs by taking my advice. And what I do now is when I get veterans in them entrapment centres that the government give extra funding for, right? I put them in a WhatsApp group with other veterans that have done that path, and I go speak to them, and this is how you do it. And I help them. And I've took homeless veterans off the street. Do you know, I love this one, a kid in Manchester. And I was walking in with my own shopping centre, and I seen him there with his cardboard box. And they had a homeless veteran, and he's putting like his number on as well. So you always walk over. I always walk over anyway. I just asked him a question he did this with XRLC. He was just like, you ask them questions, don't you? And if they give you the right answer, you know when you're talking to somebody who's been in the military, you know when you've done the basic training, you know, like you can try and trip them up, but you know the right answer. But this guy was coherent with me. He didn't have a drink problem. I asked him, all right, I've got a drink problem. He went, no. So he got a drug problem. He went, no. I went, why are you here? He said, because I left, I couldn't get a job. He said, I spot my missus. He said, I got in touch with the council. They put me in this building that was full of smackheads and no drunkards. He said, I feel safer being in my tent. He said, but I'm here. So I said, I can train you up to become a HGV driver, right? And I don't think he believed me at the time. I said, I can train you up to become a HGV driver. So I went, come on. So I took him back to the charity. We booked him his medical because that gives him hope straight away. Cut a long story short, we got him trained up. I got him a job. He went down the route of sleeping in his truck Monday to Friday. He rebuilt his life. He got himself a gaff. He got himself a new bird. And he come to see me last year. And he's like, come in the office. And he went, Daz, come outside. And I went, okay. He went, no, come out. He's excited. I went, come out. I want to show you something outside. I thought he had his truck outside. So walked out and he was like, nice A4 white Audi gleaming, right? And he went, this is my new car I just got yesterday. He said, I wanted to bring it here to show to you. He said, because I wouldn't have got this, it won't for you. And I went, no, mate. I said, you didn't get this car because of me. You got this car because of you. Because you're the one who puts the graft in working. Do you know what I mean? I said, all I did was facilitate it and show you how to do it. But you're the one who puts the hours in. You're the one who does the nights out. You're the one who's not putting the miles behind the wheel. I said, so this is down to you, mate. Well done. And we got loads of them. And you know what? It's just empowering people, no veterans, to stand on their own 2 feet. Because not all of them want to become charity cases. All right, you do get some who think they're entitled. I think, because they're a veteran, they owed everything. I don't bother them. But the ones who want to know move on with their life, the one rebuild it, I support them all day long. And we upskill them and get them into jobs.
I mean, you mentioned that there about entitled veterans, and unfortunately, you do get them. For me, when I left the military 12 years ago, I kind of washed my hands of the army. I didn't want anything to do with it at all. And it's only been in the last 2 years that I've started getting to reach back into that community. It's like going to reunions and doing the podcast and things like that. When I left, I thought, wash my hands of it, ask me past life, I don't want anything to do with it. And unfortunately, that didn't help. It wasn't until last year that I had a bit of a breakdown last year, and then realised that because I hadn't, I'd left the military, but I hadn't, I'd moved away from it too quick.
Yeah.
I just went, no, nothing to do with that anymore. Not in the army.
Yeah.
But you do need it still, because you are a different type of person. We all call ourselves veterans.
Yeah.
And we're not civvies. So we are different types of people. Our mentality is different. As much as I never wanted to admit that, and I used to hear people saying it and think, you're talking bollocks, mate. But we are.
Why?
But you do get, like you said, the odd veteran who, I served with my fucking country. I deserve everything on a plate given to me. That's not the case.
No, and I don't bother with them. I don't go I always say to them, listen, don't waste my time, I won't waste yours. But if you want it, I'll help you. And I'll make sure. And even if you fail first time, I put them through till they pass. And I will get them that job. Do you know what I mean? Am I right talking about veterans into logistics, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so veterans into logistics are set up in 220. So like I said, I got my first truck named after Jamie Doyle. I got my second truck, which was a class 1. I named it after Fusilier Lee Rigby. I grew up on the same council estate as Lee, different time because I'm older than him. But my dad knew his mum, so I got my dad to contact Lynn. I went and seen Lynn. I said, can I name his second vehicle after his son? She went, yeah, I'd be honoured for you to do that. So I had 2 training vehicles. He was old because I bought them out my own money. And then about 2 years ago, like one of our trustees, who was the he's the ex-boss of Asda, he was the vice president of Walmart over stateside. He went, I'm going to help you get new trucks. So we got in touch with Volvo. Volvo gives a new truck as a quid. Veterans Foundation supporters, we got another 2 more for 15 grand, class 2, class 1. And last year we supported over 270, training or into employment. We've got Veterans Job Board UK now. So Veterans Job Board UK is our partner. So it's companies, some companies just tick the box for the Armed Forces Covenant. The companies that are on there, they do want to employ service leavers and veterans. And they give if they're a new qualified HCV driver, they do take them on and give him that driver development that they need. But there's other jobs on there, warehouse jobs, management jobs, construction jobs on there. And to me, it's all about signposting, service leaving veterans and the families onto these jobs. Because I look at it like this. If you can support service leave veterans employment, it's a prevention rather than cure. It's a prevention that they might end up in prison, or they might end up on the streets, or they might worse take their own life. So it's working with companies who appreciate someone who served the country and someone who's been willing to die for their country. And there's a lot of companies out there that I do. And like I said, the charity's growing, changing a lot of lives. And I wouldn't think, when I come out of prison in 2012, if someone said to me, you're going to set up a charity in 2020, you're going to get invited down to the Cabinet Office, you're going to become friends with the Deputy Prime Minister, you're going to change so many lives. I'd have looked at them and gone, that guy on drugs. But it's happened, And what you're talking about before, when you when you come out of the military and you distance yourself, I did. Obviously, I went to prison, but it was 2018 I go to me mate Jamie's funeral that sort of opened it back up, because that's when I walked in when it hurt me, and that's when I started thinking about myself. Well, I am less academic, all the veterans that I met in prison, because there's a lot of them. Do you know what I mean? The veterans that I've seen on the streets, and the veterans, I just thought, this is a class thing. Because when you walk down the road and you see a homeless veteran, it's not someone who's not been to officer training at Sandhurst. It's probably someone who's been a less academic, grew up in a council estate, who can't use his LCAS funding. Do you know what I mean? So he can't get support into employment, and he ends up on the streets or ends up in prison because he's got to go and provide for his family. Does so much stupid because he ain't got any money. And that's why I think more needs to be done. And I'm going to lobby now with LCAS, with this other woman, because she reached out to me because she heard about the HCV a few years ago. I'm lobbying with her at the moment to get LCAS changed, not for me, but for the service leaving veterans who've got it there, so they can use it if they want to go to construction courses or any other courses. Because to me, should be putting barriers in front of them to make it hard for them to use. I've never been on the site, but I've been told it's like a minefield trying to get on it anyway. Do you know what I mean? To use it. And like I said, if you want to use it to become a transport manager, you want to use it for a degree, you want to use it, go this, go that, not educational, you can do. But you can't for skilled workers. I'm a skilled worker. Most of your infantry soldiers or the ones who are less academic and leave as skilled workers. Why are we discriminating? It's called discrimination.
You're right, it is.
You're discriminating the less academic individuals. Some of them end up in the entrapment centres that I spoke about, the veteran, costing the taxpayer even more money. You know what I mean? Some of them end up in prison, costing the taxpayer even more money. And they've got funding that can support them and get them trained up and support them into a new career that it's meant to be. And sometimes I just think to myself, it's set up wrong. It's set up for the elite to earn money. Do you know what I mean? Or it's set up for barriers to put in place. I don't know what it is, but it's totally wrong. And I just think the setup is wrong, and more needs to be done to support them type of service leavers who will leave without a trade. If they want to do skilled work, so let them do it. There's no a dumper truck, so you can't use it to become earth movers.
Yeah.
You can't use it to go on them one of them, to drive one of them, operate one of them. But they're paying between £20 and £26 an hour. You can go and use it to become a transport manager. It's paying them probably about £14 an hour. So you're talking £12 an hour more. But you can't use it to become one of them because it's not educational. It's wrong.
I would imagine that when it was set up all them years ago, the people who set it up didn't have any experience of real life, where we grew up and what it was like as a lower class.
I'll tell you real life. CTP is owned by a recruitment company called Reed. Before that, it was owned by another recruitment company. Reed have got the contracts, which is a recruitment company. They're more interested in high-end service leavers. Why? because they can get a recruitment fee from any placement to work. ETP also have their own training providers on there. So when a service leaver leaves and they don't know a course, go and do that course. They'll draw the money down, right? They use their money for them courses. Do you know what I mean? And it's wrong. They shouldn't have it the way it's set up. They should have it as that person wants to go and do a course. You don't have to go to a certain, not accredited LCAS provider. You should be given a check and you go and do your whatever course. But instead, the way it's set up is you got to use it with certain people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's my opinion.
Because everyone's making money. That's
yeah,
why.
they're all making money. My mate when I done an e-bosh course, well, go and do that. You don't do that for a job. But he got told, there's loads of jobs out there. He went and done the course, come out as a site major, went and done the course. He can't get a job where he lived. But he was sold that a lot of service leavers that come out, they don't know what they're doing. They just listen to the man in front. Do you know what I mean? Go and do that, go and do that. They're like an headless chicken. Do you know what I mean?
I've seen that so many times. So like we were saying to you earlier, my last 6 years I worked in the RCMO office, and we did, we helped with resettlement and trying to keep people in and stuff like that. And I'd see it, I'd watch it.
What do you say? What do you say? What you get out for? There's nothing out there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Free people. What more do you want? We had a whole. I didn't want anyone to leave the army. I thought the army was fucking great.
Yeah.
Personally, I mean, I got out. I was a full screw. That's as high as I got. You know what I mean? So I wasn't like
chasing it.
Yeah, I was too much of a fucking bad boy in the fat bastard room.
Yeah.
To be honest. We'd say to them, why do you want to leave? And a lot of guys who were getting out early, like a younger age, they do 5 or 6 years and maybe it's a get out.
Yeah.
They were generally getting out to go to jobs. But then you'd get guys who were like me, who got pension trapped, who were stuck. You don't plan for the future sometimes.
Oh.
You think you have, but you haven't. You think, I was guilty of it as well. Oh, the military look after me. They've got in, the resettlement process. And then I seen what it was like, and I'm thinking, fuck it. You really aren't helping. It's just tick a box. Go down to do the fucking career transition partnership. Tick another box.
Load of crap.
Bye. See you later. And you're like, what the fuck was all that about? I did a resettlement course at Aldershot, and I didn't even get a qualification of it. I was like, it was an introduction into system administration, more or less. And we all thought we were getting a qualification out of it. And it was a 6-week course, and we got fuck all. And it was a waste of time. We wasted 6 weeks.
People call the governments, right, saying they don't do enough. But I've seen a government throw 8 million quid there, 6 million quid there. Every year they throw money at different up this, up that. But it's going to the wrong places. You know what I mean? Last year, up Fortitude, 8 million quid to these supported accommodation entrapment centres that I just told you about. Why don't you upskill the people first? Homeless veterans, why don't you rectify the problem first by letting the people, service leavers that leave, use their LCAS credits, and they might not end up in these entrapment centres. Do you know what I mean? They just sort of they all throw money, but it ends up in the wrong places, and it ends up with the clever people who know how to siphon it off, but it doesn't go to the right places. And that's
exactly right. We'll do that, pass the money. Yeah.
You're doing it now. And I see it all the time, right? Like I said, I didn't know anything about this industry until I set it up, but it's been opened my eyes so much. And sometimes I get told, watch what you're saying. Don't go off too much. You know what I mean? But
yeah, don't rock the boat.
Yeah, sometimes I can't though. Do you know what I mean? Because I hate people that are making money on the back of veterans that pretend that they care. Like I said, there's some good entrapment centres, or should I say support accommodation. There's some entrapment centres. They don't even want me to go in and talk about employment to them because they want them to stay there. And I just look at them and I go, but you're going around pretending that you care. Then I see other veteran organisations that are not run by veterans, especially in Greater Manchester, and I'm not going to name them, but they keep trying to set them in charge of the money because they're clever and that they can write the applications. But I see smaller organisations that are run by veterans, for veterans, don't get a sniffing. And I look at that and I go, money gets thrown about, but it goes in the wrong places. And Johnny Mercer came out the other day and actually said it. And I thought, go on, Johnny. You know what I mean? I thought, go on, you know what I mean? At least you're identifying what's going on.
I follow him on Twitter, or X, or whatever I'm calling it now. To be honest, I'm like a lot of other people. I didn't really think that much of him at the time. And a lot of people didn't, to be honest. But I've seen what he's been saying. Now he's not now he's not the Veterans Minister. And he's coming out, I think he's more free with what he can say.
100%.
And he makes more sense He's not. If that makes sense to you when I say that.
No, because you know why? I went down, I seen Johnny. He invited me down to the cabinet office, and I went down, I seen him after he'd done that with the HCV driver trainer support, getting that changed, which I'm grateful and respecting for. What I realise in government, because you seem to think that you can get in touch with your MP or your local mayor, or you think they've got a magic wand. They haven't, right? They're just front people, right? To face the public. What really goes on is the people behind it, the civil servants. So you can have your parliament now. You might get into a parliament tomorrow, but the civil servants stay the same. And they've got to get that past them. And I've seen the way local council work trying to get something signed off. So you can imagine trying to get something to change like in parliament, and it's just bureaucracy. And all they can do is try. They just haven't got a one where they can. But he said to me, when I said a few other things to him that I put forward to him, and he went, right, he said, I can lobby it with me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So respecting that. At the time when I went down, I just thought he was like typical officer, typical Rupert, posh guy, but you know what? He tries, you know what I mean? And for anyone that tries for the veteran community, you know what I mean? Whether they're right or wrong, sometimes they might get it right, sometimes they might get it wrong, but at least he's trying, you know what I mean? And so's the current veterans minister now. He'll be the same, do you know what I mean? Because one thing that you do find, someone is that served, whether like an officer or private ranks, non-commissioned, we're still trying to look after our own. So we even are going to like the big logistic companies, and there's like people that have been to Sandhurst who got high up in the offices. We still have that common ground, and they still want to support like the veteran community and veterans into logistics. But obviously, what I said before, government throw money, it just goes to the wrong type of people that that want to make a difference. There's a lot of people that make a career out of chasing that money.
I mean, how do you fund yours? How do you fund veterans in logistics?
So, Veterans Foundation, we've got our own people collecting money at supermarkets with the buckets. Asda's had a big fundraiser for us. So last year they raised 60 grand for us. We've had money off the Office of Veterans Affairs. We've got like a bid writer that writes for grants any way that we can, really. We're doing a new initiative with European Metal Recycling. So people want to donate their scrap car or any scrap metal, they can donate it, they'll collect it, and some proceeds will come to us, or all proceeds will come to us. Like I said, when I got involved in doing this, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. Never done a driver training school, you know what I mean? But I knew I wanted to make a difference. We've even got a Patreon scheme now, where we're asking companies to sign up a patronage, and you're starting seeing veterans into logistics stickers on the side of their trucks. Do you know what I mean? I never thought it would go like this, but the impact that we're having, the lives that we're changing, the lives that we're saving, you know what I mean? And we're giving people new careers. I always talk about this guy called Steve Needham. I want to send you a video. And he's one of the first veterans that we supported. He served in the Queen's Lancashire Regiment. He'd left the military. He struggled for 6 years, with his transition. He's not the brightest of sparks, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. Less academic, typical infantry soldier. I'm only joking. Yeah. But no, he struggled for 6 years where they couldn't, earn a decent wage, which made him, depressed. He didn't feel like adequate as a father. He was looking out the window, looking at, people who had good jobs, whether electrician or plumber on the street. But he felt crap as a person, that he couldn't provide for his family. He reached out to us after being unemployed for 6 years and being depressed. Another veteran organisation put him in touch with us. So we trained him up, got his HGV licence. He didn't pass first time, he passed third time. Got him a job with Asda's. So he went on their driver development programme. I said to him, what company do you want to work for? He went, I want to work for Asda. So got him a job with Asda. They looked after him. Got him a job. He's on 40 odd grand a year. He's improved his mental health. I was seeing him at the weekend. He come and see me at some event I was at with his missus. It's improved his mental health. It's empowered him to be a better father. It's empowered him to be a better husband. He's renewed his wedding vows with his missus. Do you know what I mean? He's even dressed up as Richard Gere. Officer and gentleman walks into his missus' work, carrying it out. So he's not improved his mental health that much. But what I'm trying to say is, it's empowered him. And I always say, us men are mammals. We're educated mammals, right? So back in the day when you could go out with a spear, go and catch the meat, bring it back to the cave. Obviously, with educational, we can't do that. But we go and buy the meat, So whether you got a sharp spear or you got cash to go and buy it, if you've got a blunt spear or you got no cash, you don't feel inadequate as a person. We've empowered them so we can, go and buy the meat. You can go on holidays. We can look out the window, there's head up because he's getting up and going to work in the mornings. He's coming home, he's providing for his family. He's got that purpose again. And it's just the simple little things that we do is upskill, employment, purpose. Nothing else. We stay in our lane in what we do. And we've got a Veterans Job Board UK, which opens up even more.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just prevention rather than the cure. But we work together. We work with anyone. And the companies that we got involved from, Asda's, Mother Milk, your dairies, Yodel, Armstrong's, Palex, Freshlink, FLX Logistics, who take homeless veterans off us. They're one of the companies that take them on when they've got nowhere to stay. And our partnership with these companies are growing bigger and bigger all the time. EMR, European Metal Recycling, the biggest European recyclers in the company, believe in our mission. And it's the impact that we're having, because they see what we're doing. They see that we're upskilling veterans and service leavers, and they're seeing that we're trying to create that prevention rather than cure. And one of the things that when I got off, and you probably see me TikTok post, when I said the government does need to get behind this initiative. It does need to create pathways. Why should you have a homeless veteran sleeping on the streets when they can get paid for sleeping in the back of a truck? Do you know what I mean? If we catch some of these service leavers, like I said, prevention rather than cure, sound like a parrot, but it's just that simple. Do you know what I mean? And that's what we're doing. I've got dinosaur fingers, me. But my daughter kept on saying, you need to go on TikTok, Dad. You need to go on TikTok. I said, I can't go on TikTok. But I started it 2 weeks ago. But it's creating awareness. And I am.
Yeah, that's where I've seen you. That's where I've seen you on TikTok. And I was like, I want to talk to him, right?
And I am going to go off even more now. Do you know what I mean? Because I've just found a platform where I can go off that a little bit more. Do you know what I mean? But I've got to do it in the right way, because I'm a founder of a charity and I've got good partnerships, and I don't want to burn bridges. And I don't want to burn bridges that and create employment opportunities. So I've got to be smart and clever about it and go off in the right way.
I mean, with TikTok, as you've probably already found in your couple of weeks on there, there's a massive veteran community on there, and they all reach out to each other. But there's some funny lads on there. There's some fucking head cases as well.
Oh, I know. You know what? Some of the shit that I've seen on there, I'm like, now I know why I've not been on TikTok. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so I went up on Saturday and drove up to Stobarts. So Stobarts are recruiting, and they'll take on a newly qualified HGV driver. So they'll take someone who's been in the forces who hasn't got that commercial driving experience. So I went up there on Saturday and I put a post out on Saturday that was up there. You get your keyboard warriors, right?
Yeah, especially.
You get them, right? And I got on there and people, Stobart, no, that's all piss take. And I went, mate, some of these are seasoned truck drivers. When you've got no commercial driving experience, and it's hard to get a job. If someone's giving you a job, I always say take it. Do you know what I mean? And then you had someone on there going, blah, blah. And today I just messaged back and I went, listen, I became a fuel tanker driver, supermarket fuel tanker driver. I didn't start there. Do you know what I mean? It's not where you start. Some people have put into Stobarts 3 years ago on the Formula 1 circuit because it's a sister company. The main thing is you need someone who's going to give you that that employment opportunity, give you that driver development. Do you know what I mean? Whether you choose to stay there, it's like any job. If you don't like it, move on. But I just messaged someone today who's gobbing off a little bit. I went, listen, I said, you can go on there, whether you like the job or not. If you don't, leave. But you've got a better chance of getting employment because you've got a bit of experience behind you. You know what I'm saying? But you always get your keyboard warriors and yeah.
I've been lucky, I think. I've not had really many. I've had some odd things.
There's one today, Sapper. So he come on with Smart Art Sansa. Stobart is owned by Cleaner Group. Cleaner Group is owned by Mullers. I know I've been working for these companies for 3 or 4 years, so I know everything about them. So when I put a post up there saying it's I'm up at Stobart's, it's because I was at Stobart's, and he went, it's not Stobart's. He went, it's Cleaner. Get your facts right. So I said, okay, mate. You know that. I said, I sleep better tonight. No, I know that fact now. Couldn't be asked to argue with him. Do you know what I mean? And I looked at his cap badge and he was a sapper. And I felt like going, fuck off, do you know what I mean? But you can't, can you?
I just ignore them, mate, to be honest. I just freaking ignore them. I've put a couple of things up where it's kind of antagonised a few people. And to be fair, they're like some of the best viewed ones. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's why I put it there. But it got people talking, it got people arguing in the comments. And then it like highlights what was going on at the time. And it lets people see that. But yeah, the online world is crazy.
You're always going to get your keyboard warriors. I know that. Yeah. No, I've been to prison and I've been called out for going to prison. You're always going to get your keyboard warriors. But I don't really engage with it. No, I found some of it funny, But
on the other side of that, there's some really good people out there.
100%. But I'm on it. I truthfully, right? I'm only on it to raise awareness for what I'm doing. And if that creates doorways and it creates employment opportunities, and I can open more doors, that's the reason I'm on it. That's why I'm on TikTok. I'll be truthful. There's no reason why I'm on it. But there's one thing that I will be doing that's going to create so much awareness with veterans into logistics is I'm doing a celebrity reverse challenge. So I'm getting different celebrities, a bit like Top Gear.
Yeah.
When they've done the fastest lap, I've got celebrities come and reverse my truck. So I'm going to teach them how to reverse the truck. I'm going to get 2 people at a time, teach them how to reverse truck and its best effort on their own, reversing it into like what you do in a class 1 driving test. And you'll get a lot of people watching that. Do you know what I mean? And that'll create awareness. I'm also doing celebrity drive. So a bit like, your karaoke, is it car karaoke, whatever it is? I want to do truck karaoke, but without the singing because I'm not singing. Do you know what I mean? But I want to try and get like Tyson Fury, Dame Kelly Owen, different celebrities to come and drive the truck, have a driving lesson, and then just talk.
Just have a chat with it.
Talk about mental health, talk about life, talk about different facts. I'm going to get Ricky Hatton involved. I'd love to get Nigel Benn, his ex-Fusilier. One of my favourite boxes growing up, and I always some box at the weekend. I'm going to get different celebrities come and reverse the truck, and then that'll get people watching, and that'll open even more doors for service leaving veterans and gives me a platform to go off more and get things changed. That needs to be.
that there, you're talking about interviewing people while you're driving. That'll be good. That'll be really, really good. I'd fucking watch that.
What I've got to do is, I've already
thought... They can't run away, can they? They can't run away.
So what I've got to do is, I'll give the driving lesson first. That's all professional. Yeah. Second left gear. Then I'll take them on the motorway. And that's when I'll have a little talk. But I'll do a talk before, do a talk and after. I won't do that much talking on a driving lesson. I'll just be like proper driving lesson. But once they park up, we'll have a little chat. Because I'll get some jobs with going, you shut me talking when you're giving a driving lesson. But I don't know if you ever watched it, but there's a BBC documentary made on myself, on veterans into logistics in 2021. I send it you. You can watch it.
Right.
It shows you more about us, shows you about more of our mission, the impact that we're having, the lives that we're changing.
So what's your plans for the future then?
For the future, there's an area that we've got in Manchester, Bowley, it's our train area. I want to develop that into a mini Leckingfield. I want to get the funding to develop that into like you had the Defence School of Transport. I want to call it not like the veteran, not defence, but veteran, like training area. So I can take like service leaving that like even fix a board, temporary accommodation, get them trained up, get the companies involved. I always have a vision of having different flagpoles outside. So if it's an ASDA flag, whether it's an FLX flag, whether it's like the different companies and mothers, let them be there. I've had an exam centre there, bit of a cookhouse on there. And we can take veterans from different places, part of the country, like in these entrapment centres, or if they're leaving no fixer board or they're coming out of prison, we can take them, temporary stay with us, upskill them, and then support them into employment where they're from. So that's what I have.
That sounds awesome. Ideally, you want an old RAF camp that you can do that.
Well, our site is ex-RAF. So it's an ex-Barrage Blue site in Manchester. So I want to create the funds, create the awareness, and that's what I want to create. So I want to have it where service leaving with no fixer board, they come to get trained. If they're coming out of prison, they come to us. If they're coming off the streets, they come to us. We can put them in that temporary accommodation, get them trained up, and give them to our partners with jobs. And if they're from Scotland, London, or wherever, send them back with a HCV licence and employment. And that's what I've got in my head. And hopefully, we'll get there. Well, I manifest it. We are going to get there.
Yeah, no, I think it sounds awesome. I've thought of things like that in the past where, there's all these empty camps, with accommodation and stuff like that. Why hasn't somebody took them over, or at least one or two of them, and then so the homeless guys can move into them and be back in that environment.
It's not like being homeless and you take them in, but you need an exit strategy. You know what I mean? You need them trained up and get them becoming taxpayers, get them having a purpose. Otherwise, they're going to be sat in their ass, depressed, doing nothing. There's some people that come out of the military, end up in these supporting accommodations, treatment centres, end up on drugs. Because there's other people on there on drugs, or they end up in depressed. Then it's an entrapment centre. Skill them, get them jobs, get them earning their own money. Not everyone's up for it. And if they're not up for it, let them stay where they are. But don't entrap the others with them. The ones that don't want to work, because some of them don't, fine. But the ones that do, let's do our best to get them upskilled and get them into employment so they can stand on their own 2 feet and give them a fighting chance.
You're right. You can only help the ones who want to be helped. You can talk them into it, but in the end, if you try and get someone to do something they don't want to do, even if it's for the benefit and it will do them good, you can't make them.
I know which ones want to. You sort of know. So one of the things that we have to do is the medical and the theory test. If they're not engaging in the theory test, they don't want to do it. But at least if they try, because we have an online app where we give them the learning material online, and you can see if they're going on that app. We can see if they've been on it for 10 seconds. Because all I've got to do is put a name in it, shows what they've done, what time they come on. And if they're putting that effort in, and even if they're struggling, you can see they're putting effort in. But if they're not putting anything in your phone and mum going, oh yeah, I've tried, to go, what are you lying to us for? we can see that you've done nothing. Oh yeah, look, I went on it last night. Yeah, for 60 seconds. Come off it. Do you know what I mean? Don't waste our time. We won't waste yours. If you want it, we'll help you. Do you know what I mean? And that's the way we are. You know what I mean? We're not here to mess about. You know, we're here to help you. If you want helping, we'll help you. And if you don't waste our time.
Right, mate. I think we've covered everything there. We've had you on for nearly an hour and a half. It's getting on. Don't take up any more of your time.
What did you think?
It's been great. all the information that you can send me for everything. When I put this out, obviously I'll put that in the show notes and stuff like that. I chat with one of the veterans associations over this end now and again, and I try to signpost people that go to them. The East Durham Veterans Trust. I want to send them your details as well, because they're a veterans trust that's run by a veteran. It was created by a veteran, although it was a scaly. It's not his fault. But they're absolutely brilliant. You know, it's where I went for counselling and stuff like that. And I've seen them help so many people in the last year that I've been aware of all the things I wasn't aware of. So all the stuff that happens, like what you're doing and other veterans associations I've spoken to, because you've never needed them or wanted to think that you needed them, you don't really pay too much attention to them. You know, like walking with the ones and stuff like that. And you're just like, all right, okay. But yeah, there's places there for help. There's a lot of fucking scams as well, don't get me wrong.
It is, but there's a lot of help.
But,
you just said there, that was a veteran, wasn't it? That's set up, that's doing it. And what you find out is, like, some of them support accommodations that I'm on about, the ones that are not run by veterans, they don't care.
Yeah.
There's one run by Healthy Heroes, Andy Powell, ex-veteran himself. Not ex-veteran, he is a veteran, ex-military himself. I can't believe I said that. Yeah, he's ex-military himself. And I always say to people, they say ex-veteran. No, you're not an ex-veteran, you're a veteran, do you know what I mean? Ex-military. But he's run by Andy Powell. He does a fantastic job at Healthy Heroes. I work with him. I take referrals. There's another kid called Chad. He's setting up a veterans housing group now. He's doing the right thing. He's singing the right thing. He's been in the military. He's left. He's struggled with his own transition. He's trying to make a change now. There is other organisations out there that are run by veterans for veterans. That's what I find out is the ones that have been in the military, the ones that have served, the ones know what it's like when you said we are different. They're the ones who make the difference. And what I was saying to you before is, I've seen in Greater Manchester, there's people that run in veteran groups that never been in the military, but they know how to write the bids. They know how to dot the dots across the T's, you know what I mean? And they're getting a majority of funding, and I'm just looking at them, it's not like that. And that's not just Greater Manchester, it goes up and down the country.
All over the country.
But I don't call it out. I realise one thing, I don't go on the defensive and go call them out. I just see it and I go, I don't work with you. Do you know what I mean? We stay in our lane in what we do. We work with some good organisations. I work with Walking the Wounded. I work with the Poppy Factory. I take referrals from the British Legion. And to me, it's not about who we work with. It's about changing the lives of the veterans that need support and getting them into employment and the service leavers. And I'll wait.
Right, I'll stop the recording now, mate, and we'll have a little quick chat afterwards. Again, thank you for coming on.
No problem.
And I will be putting everything in the show notes that will allow people to get in contact with you. And look them up on TikTok. I'm looking forward to your journey on TikTok, let's say. I think it might be entertaining.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Right, I'll stop now, mate.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that podcast. I enjoyed recording it. If you could just hit the like button, and also if you could subscribe and hit the notification bell, that'd be great, because it'll help the channel grow. The more people will see it, the bigger it'll get, and the more guests I can get on, and the more people I can talk to. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, like I said. Look forward to the next one. Hopefully we'll be out next week as normal. Bye-bye now.